some of those applications just to give you a little warm-up on those technologies, and then we'll hear from Mark.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Anya, and I'm going to be giving you a brief introduction as to what augmented and virtual reality are to hopefully provide you guys with more context before we start our augmented reality workshop. And I'll take all the questions if there are any at the end of the presentation. So what exactly is augmented reality? Augmented reality allows users to alter or change the real world using computer-generated effects. And it also allows for users to be able to get more information about a specific area or a specific place by just pointing your smartphone camera at a particular area. And there are a lot of examples and many many fields that use augmented reality. But there is a common misconception that that augmented reality is only used for technology applications, but that's not true. It's used in interior designing to show how a particular design would look in someone's home or in someone's room. It's used for e-commerce shopping, especially for clothing, to show how a particular piece of clothing would look on someone. And it's used in many such applications. I think one we're very familiar with is Google Lens. So when you move your smartphone camera to a particular location, Google Lens is able to detect your location and provide more information about it. So yeah, augmented reality, and our whole workshop today is focused on understanding augmented reality, its applications, learning how to experience it, and having fun all throughout. So one very cool way augmented reality has been used over the COVID-19 pandemic is for visualization. So visualization is getting those objects and resources that are otherwise inaccessible closer and more accessible. So as you can see in this picture, there is a picture of Case Western medical students who are using augmented reality technology to be able to study the human body. So there are a lot of other examples where augmented reality is used. So we've already covered, interior designing, e-commerce, but I think one that we're very familiar with is gaming. There was a popular game, Pokemon Go, where you could move your smartphone camera in your environment and be able to catch characters from Pokemon. And that was a mix of the augmented world and the real world, which is a very good example of augmented reality. Other examples also include in the military and also in museums. So museums are now using augmented reality, and they're setting up QR codes in many areas on exhibits. And when you scan those QR codes, you can get a completely immersed. You can be immersed in new learning about that whole exhibit and learn much more about that exhibit. Now, what is virtual reality? So virtual reality is a completely computer-generated simulated space. It incorporates no form of the real world, and it's all computer-generated. The only thing is, virtual reality is generally more immersive because it has more visual effects, sometimes sound effects, and you can interact with the environment more. But virtual reality also requires a virtual reality headset, which augmented reality does not require. So, like augmented reality, virtual reality also has a lot of use cases, and some include sports, health, education, and much more. So, the scope that augmented reality is used in is much different than the scope that virtual reality is used in. For education, for example, augmented reality is used to get those resources that are inaccessible closer. But for virtual reality, it's more about accessing those places that you cannot access. For example, outer space, or inside a volcano, or being next to the sun. You can't really go there for right now on field trips. So you'll be able to access those virtually and understand and learn about them virtually through virtual reality. It's also used for health purposes and medicine. For example, medical students can train to become doctors by putting on virtual reality headsets and sort of simulating how exactly it feels to be inside an operation theater, to understand their stress levels and work on that specific component. On the flip side, it's also used to treat phobias and anxieties. So, so patients can put on those virtual reality headsets and face their fears while being in the comfort of their own homes. In addition to that, it's also used in virtual traveling. There's a company called Virtual Yosemite, which offers virtual travel to Yosemite. And this has become extremely popular lately because Yosemite has been facing wildfires and many people are not traveling there anymore. So virtual traveling, especially virtual Yosemite, has become extremely popular lately. It's also being used in museums. So there are, again, a lot of QR codes, and when you set up with that virtual reality headset, you're able to get a full immersified experience into overall what the exhibit is all about, so that you can learn so much more about that exhibit. So a lot of people now confuse virtual and augmented reality because they're used for so many applications, and those applications sometimes start to blend. So many people start to feel like that whole concept of virtual and augmented reality starts to blend, and then they start to use the words interchangeably, which is not really correct because they're two very separate ideas. So virtual reality, in virtual reality, everything is artificially created, whereas in augmented reality, it's a mix of the virtual world and the real world. In virtual reality, mostly it's fully immersive because there is sound effects, visual effects, and you can interact with the simulated environment more, whereas in augmented reality, it's more, it's less interactive, but it's more accessible because you can do augmented reality with as much as just a smartphone, whereas in virtual reality, you have to use a virtual reality headset. So now, what is the future of augmented and virtual reality? There's so many fields that use virtual and augmented reality, which just shows how prevalent it is. And here there are two big name companies as examples, Apple and Meta. So Apple is building their own augmented and virtual reality goggles, which are supposed to be a precursor to Apple's AR and VR glasses. And Meta is also buying several companies that are focused on AR, VR, which only shows how these two big name companies are also investing in this augmented reality technology and trying to go more in depth in the metaverse. And because it's being used in so many fields, I really feel that augmented and virtual reality is the future, which is why I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you.
That was so great.